All right, guys and girls, women, children, men, ladies. So, I had a subscriber ask me a question about loop detectors. And I'll be honest, take this with a grain of salt because I don't want nobody bashing me, but I am not an expert. These are just my opinions, my thoughts, my years of experience with them. And I thought this would be a good time to show you because I'm literally at a job that's having a loop problem. And I'm going to explain why I think it's having a loop problem and some of the things I'm going to do to try to fix it. And then I'm also going to explain there is a meter that you can buy. I think it's called a Megger. And you have to look it up. It's called a Megger. And I'm thinking about buying one. But right now, with my little bit of research, it's like $1,000. It's pretty expensive. But I might try it. This might be a good time to try this. So I'm going to take you outside. Hopefully the wind's not too bad. And we're going to go through what I think and what's going on. Now let me give you a little backstory. We installed this gate probably about a year and a half now. It's been in service roughly. And there's a manhole cover out here I'm going to show you that I should have said something. And I thought, nah, it was one of those things I've always pushed the limits. And I think this is the one that pushed the limits too far. And so I'm not sure where my variable is, but I got a variable in here somewhere and I can't figure it out. I messed with it yesterday. This isn't the first time I've been here. I've been turning the sensitivity down and that's still it's not fixing it because if I turn it down too low, then it doesn't recognize a vehicle. So this is my little bit of explanation with loop detectors, loops. So let's go through it. Okay, so first of all, we got a loop out here. So if a car parks, I always try to get it so if a vehicle parks in the middle, the gate doesn't close on them. So there's actually an invisible loop underneath the asphalt. You can't see it. This manhole cover, this should have went. I should have never chanced it with that thing. I regret it because I know I cratered it. I know my loop's roughly somewhere right about in here. It's a pretty big opening. And then the problem is there was so many variables in this. They ended up adding more asphalt to this project. So my loop is only roughly right up, it's the edge of it, somewhere in there. So the problem I'm having is that this loop here is that it's typically, when it's closing, it's kicking it to detect something. Now yesterday this one was messing up on me too, that after a vehicle would back off of it, it was also detecting. So, it's funny, I don't want to I'm sounding goofy, but, these things, a lot of things with the sun can do things. The radiations, the reflection of metal, when the gate's closing, it can radiate to that because it's basically that loop is making a hemisphere. And when it detects a car, that's what the loop detector does. It's going to pick up. Now, really a loop detector, it's pretty simple. It's really just a wire that runs around either many times, 2 or 3 times it's looped around and it just comes in. So it runs along here and, it's chilly. The wires come in here, right? So I color code mine. I do green, yellow, red. So I probably did green as my entry, or like my exit, my first one, which I think I did. Did I do that? Is that how I did it? Open? Yes. So I went green. I do it like a traffic light. I do green, yellow, red. So if you ever have to come diagnose it, this is easier. So what I'm doing is I'm splitting up all the wires. I don't know if this is for sure the problem, but these wires were all bundled together that I did. So I'm splitting them up, separating them, and I'm gonna see if that's gonna help. There's dip switches on here to make certain sensitivity. So I don't want to say for sure that we have a problem with the loop yet, because the other thing I got to explain to you is that when we installed these, we put them in conduit. And we ended up had them sitting here ready to be, and we dug them down just a little bit. Well, the guys come when they clean this edge up, they nicked my loop in the conduit, so I had to splice it, and I believe it was on the open side. And I sealed it, I soldered it, I shrink wrapped it, I re-gooped it back in the pipe, and I don't know if that's the problem. So I got a lot of variables going right now, so I'm having variable problems. So this is where we're at. That gate over there works fine. It's flawless. Never has any problems. But I really know I pushed. You know, you really should try to be 6 feet away from the gate, roughly. You know, somewhere in there. And I know I'm pushing that loop really close to this gate, this one. And then I did that one because I didn't want to put it farther out, because if a car was out here at the storage place, it might, you know, keep the gate open, and I didn't want that to be a problem. So I am going to keep working on this, and we will go from there. Okay, so when it comes to loops and loop detectors, I ended up, I don't know if I 100% fixed this one, but these loop detectors are actually pretty advanced. I wanted to have the one to show you. Hang on. Okay, so with these loop detectors, these ones are pretty nice because it's actually got a lot of the instructions right on the side. So I learned something today too, and yesterday, that these work pretty nice. They give you a lot of options, so you have a lot of flexibility with these. One thing I will say is that in the changing times right now, there's a lot of things going on. And this is one of the reasons why I do not like the industry sometimes, because you can have a good product and it can go sour on you and you don't even know why. And you feel like you're like the guy, you're like sitting there, the guy going, you know, man, you know, I've been doing this for years, you know, and you go, what am I an idiot? Do I not know what I'm doing? You know, like you always got stuff like thrown at you. These loop detectors, I remember one time the supply chain, when it first kind of was breaking down, you know, whatever, a year and a half ago or so, I remember I drove all the way up north. I don't know, it was probably about 45 minutes away from the shop roughly. And I remember I get up there and I pull the loop detector out of the package, right? I pull it out, little Christmas. I pull it out, right? And I'm like, it's white. See how this was black? It was white. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I supposed to do? And so I'm like, well, it's okay. I mean, identical, everything identical. The plug, the switches, you know, everything except it's white with like black lettering or something. I can't remember. And I'm like, so I put it in, and it doesn't work. And I can't get it to work. And so I call the vendor, and I remember the vendor was like, well, you know, they're the same. And I was like, it's not the same. I mean, it was like, I feel like we're going back to kindergarten. I'm like, it is not the same. Well, it's the same. I was like, it's not the same. The one I'm holding is white. The old one is black. Crayons, color, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like, it ain't the same. So, I mean, it wasn't even like it looked the same and there was like one part number different. It was like, one was black, one was white. And so finally she tells me, after the fact, right? It's like, well, you know, we couldn't get them from China, so we started ordering them from the Mexico one. And I'm like, well, that's probably the problem. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, and the worst part is for me to drive back to the vendor was realistically probably about 2 hours one way. So you have 4 hours, right? Just in going to, and she's like, you know, she tells me, she says, well, bring it back and we can exchange it, right? We can exchange it. And I'll give you, I still have a couple of the old ones, you know, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So I just, the time and days that we're in, and I have to even challenge myself to do it, we almost have to like open everything. I mean, it's in these kind of times, this is where I always, you got to slow down. You got to slow down, and you can't be running around like a chicken with your head cut off. You just can't do it. You can't afford it. It'll bleed you dry. So you have to take your time and look at everything methodically and think about it and think how it's going to fail and where things are going to get screwed. And there's things behind the scenes. Like I know, because I used to work in a factory. I know there's things behind the scenes that we're not seeing. These circuit boards, there's certain things that they're the buttons, maybe they can't get the buttons, so they have to use a different button, right? But it should work. Right? It should work. But they're not the people out in the field. We're like the end users of this stuff. And then we have the customer. And then the customer comes to us and goes, it's not working. So right now, for this one, it seems like the loop detector was the failure. I put a new one in it. I turned the sensitivity up as high as it would go. It seemed to not fail. It's not detecting anything frequently, erratically. So I think the loop detector is bad. I'm not 100% sure. I'm also going to look into one of those meggers just to check it because, like I said, that wire got compromised. So, and you got to get the chart. Yeah, there's a chart. You can probably find it online. You got to get a chart for how big you make your loop and all that. And it's not really that complicated. You just got to remember, twist your wires when you're done making your loop. Twist, like take a drill and get the wires twisted so they're stranded together. So anyways, I hope that gives you some insight to loops. Got any questions? Got any comments? Got anything like helpful? Comment below. Because loops are tricky. And the problem is with loops is like they're in the ground, they're hidden, you don't know exactly what's going on. Like with this one, the water in the ground could be raising up too, and I don't know that, you know what I mean? And it could be saturating something. I've had that happen before. I had it with a gate operator one time. The high voltage would short out only about when it would rain or a day after the rain, and it was because the ground would get saturated and it would it would pop the breaker. And that guy swore up and down. Oh, no. And I said, it's probably got to be, and then all of a sudden one day we're walking around his house, we're running an extension cord to temporarily use it. Oh, that's right. I had a gardener. I remember he was in there. He was chopping and he hit something. He told me about it. And I'm like, buddy, we've been here like 5 or 6 times. And now you're telling us? Now you figured it out? You know what I mean? Because we were getting so desperate, we were just going to run an extension cord. We're like, I don't know what to tell you. We're going to run an extension cord to your garage to run the operator. So, variables. I hate variables. Do you guys hate variables? I hate variables. I'd rather get a flat tire on a vehicle than I would to have there and it's got a misfire and they can't find it at the mechanic. You can't get us to do it for the mechanic. You can't figure it out. I'd rather just get a flat tire and go, oh, it's a flat tire, right? That's the problem. You need to re-inflate it, to fix it, to patch it, put a spare on, right? But I hate ghosts. I hate them. Just absolutely hate them. So, anyways, hope you guys learned something today. Loop detectors, linear. The linear ones I like the best. I really do. I still believe in those. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Like on the way out, if you don't mind. Hit the thumbs up. Subscribe. If you're not a subscriber, you should join. We should learn together. It's a great community. I really enjoy you guys a lot. So, anyways, take care. See ya.